Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Matters of Faith, the radio show. Matters of Faith is a show designed to bring issues of interest to you, the listening audience, that will challenge, encourage, motivate, and inspire you to keep the faith. I am your host, the Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell, and it's my job to engage you in stimulating dialogue that's inspiring, encouraging, motivating, dialogue and conversations that will help you build your determination, your commitment, and your character. Conversations that will help you keep the faith. Everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. 1 John 5 and 4. And now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, without further ado, it is time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, October the 2nd. It's 8 o'clock, and it's time for Matters of Faith radio show. Tonight, we're talking about the article and the topic, Living Testimonies. We're on Facebook Live, Matters of Faith, as well as the J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. And tonight, my very special guest is Deacon Dr. Leroy Gadsden. Listen, you don't want to miss this show, so telephone, tell a friend to join us tonight from 8 to 10. Matters of Faith, the radio show, Living Testimonies, with our very special guest, Deacon Dr. Leroy Gadsden. And we're on Matters of Faith and the J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. Don't forget to support our advertisers and our sponsors, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting, LLC, for all of your church financial consulting needs. Check out our website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. That's www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. Or simply give us a call, 718-328-8096, 718-328-8096. If you want to train your trustees, if you want to develop your property, if you need a church loan, give us a call. We'll be there to help. Matters of Faith, the book, can be purchased at my Cash App, $Matters of Faith. The cost of the book is $22.80. That's $22.80. You can send your check or money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. Get the book. It will absolutely bless your life. You can also get it as an ebook. All you need to do is go to www.smashwords.com/view/993177. That's www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. The book has no shipping and handling if you get it as an ebook. And also check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. And finally, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe. Let me add just one more thing. Get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. That's www.abettermag.com. www.abettermag.com. And now the article, Living Testimonies. That article can be found in my column, Matters of Faith, at the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com. The Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com. Black Westchester Magazine, and Pamela's Big Heart newsletter, Living Testimonies. And now the article, Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9 from the New King James Version. Only take heed to yourself, and diligently keep yourself, lest you forget the things your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life, and teach them to your children and your grandchildren. Living Testimonies. I think most would agree that you can't adequately take care of someone else if you haven't cared for yourself first. Many times we hear of the caretaker's health failing before the one they are caring for because they neglected self-care. It's critically important that we take care of ourselves so that we can take advantage of all the gifts and talents we've been blessed with. The thing that challenges us in our attempt to care for ourselves is understanding what is required to be our best selves. When Moses wrote the book of Deuteronomy, he was sharing with the new generation the things the Lord required of them. In the scripture text, the word heed is translated care in the New American Standard 2020 version and says, only be careful for yourself and watch over your soul diligently. By using the word careful, Moses was directing them to live as the embodiment of self-care. Then they would be enabled to teach their children and their children's children. Often we find ourselves so busy doing things that we miss or forget who we are in the process. Moses presents his statement as a matter of fact. He was not making a suggestion, but giving a directive. If you are going to care for others, you must care for yourself first. This message could have easily been directed at current day believers. Like the children of Israel, our best is revealed by living a lifestyle that glorifies God the Father. Moses challenged his readers, and he challenges us today by asking in verses 7 and 8, for what great nation is there that has God so near to it, as the Lord our God is to us? For whatever reason we call upon him. And that great nation, what great nation is there that has such status and righteous judgments as are in all this law which I set before you this day? I contend that we are at our best when we practice self-care. It reveals who we are and ultimately who we were created to be. We become living testimonies first by caring for and watching over our own souls diligently. Be blessed. Now here's my question tonight. Why is it so important that we consistently practice self-care, especially those who are our spiritual leaders? Let me ask it again. Why is it so important that we consistently practice self-care, especially those who are our spiritual leaders? This gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce to some and to present to others my very special guest this evening. Deacon Dr. Leroy Gadsden is a native of Bishopville, South Carolina. He currently resides in Queens, New York, and is employed as a criminal justice professor with the City University of New York. Deacon Gadsden is a member of the Mount Olivet Baptist Church in Hollis, New York, where his pastor is Reverend Dr. Franco Harris. He serves as a deacon, chairman of the Men's Day Committee, and vice president of the Pastor's Aid Ministry. He is a former member of the Mount Carmel Baptist Church in the Bronx, New York, under the leadership of their pastor and present moderator of the United Missionary Baptist Association, Reverend Dr. Anthony Lowe. He served in numerous church ministries, deacon board chairman, organizer, and chairman of the African American History Month celebration, Sunday school teacher, Rites of Passage mentor, and Men's Day Committee chairman. Dr. Gadsden is an Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated member and a Silver Life member of the NAACP. He is the founder and director of the Alliance for African American Awareness, a community-based 501c3 organization engaged in uplifting and advancing the community. The organization, in collaboration with Mount Olivet Baptist Church, is currently implementing a year-round domestic violence prevention initiative that involves a new proactive approach to preventing domestic violence. The initiative involves engaging in a proactive stance against domestic violence by educating the entire community on prevention, recognition, resources, and support. The organization also provides free workshops on re-entry workshops for returning citizens and their families. Know your rights when interacting with law enforcement, and voting rights education and responsibilities. Dr. Gadsden is also a member of the National Criminal Justice Committee, American Criminal Justice Association, American Correctional Association, and the American Parliamentary Society, New York State Conference of NAACP Branches Resolutions Committee. In August of 1991, he was appointed Director of Hospital Police and Safety at Manhattan State, Wards Island, New York. He was the youngest director in the history of the New York State Office of Mental Health from 2002 to 2008. And in November of 2016, City and State of New York honored him as one of the top 50 influential community leaders in Queens. Matters of Faith family, would you welcome me with me warmly my very special guest tonight, Deacon Dr. Leroy Gadsden.
So did I do all right? Did I catch you? Did I get you all up in there? So unmute yourself and come on in. And while you're coming in, I'm going to ask you the same question I always ask my guests. The first question I ask is this. I didn't read all of your bio. I read some of your bio because I abbreviated it. But tell us something about you that we don't know and we really should know.
Well, first of all, good evening. I'm honored and thank you for having us here. I think my bio is a testament of what God can do when you have faith. I came from a very humble background, poverty-stricken, in a little place called Bishopville, South Carolina. At the time, it was not even on the map. We had 3 traffic lights in the city, and 2 of them worked full-time, and 1 worked part-time on the weekend. Well, you know, and with the poor school district, have all those things, et cetera, et cetera. But I had a grandmother who would come through hard times. She survived the Depression. She survived the Jim Crow. She never had anything, but she never stopped praying. And I got older, I was just amazed that, you know, you have so little. She could not read, she was without formal education, but here I sit today through her effort and her faith with a law degree. God is good. I love my community, I love my people, and I sincerely believe that, as Dr. King once said, America wrote us a check and we went to cash it. It came back insufficient funds. And all my professional, personal life, I worked to try to make America good on cashing that check. I love what I do. As I love my people, I love the Lord. I love service. I think service is what we do to make ourselves better. And I love America. One thing I say about America, yes, we have our ills and our faults, but America allows for opportunities and change. And I've tried my best to show my little piece of the earth to help people understand you can bring about change in America. This is the land of opportunity for all. It's about all the ills, racism, discrimination, etc. It is still the land of opportunity. I'm not going my hobbies, just a little something about myself. Got just some basic thing. I mean, I've done some everything in life. I've had a great journey, a great walking life, still young. And I thank God, because I've had fun along the way. You know, I've worked from you said hospital police. I've been a police officer on the street, Richland County Sheriff's Department. I've done things with the correction, Rikers Island. I'm one of the few people in America that has had a double stance. When I say that, where I was in criminal justice, law enforcement active, yet still had a leadership role in the NAACP. I've served in the NAACP all my life, on the Northeast region, the Southern region, from youth and college division up to adult status now, while working to maintaining my integrity as a Black man, trying to make sure we have justice in the criminal justice system. And I've survived that. And there are probably very few people in America that can say they've walked both sides of the aisle simultaneously. So,
yeah, that's true, because if you walk blue, you're blue. If you walk with the NAACP, you're blacks.
yes.
But that's very true, and that's amazing, because you know, interestingly enough, I'll say this early in our conversation so we can talk about it. I remember when you first came to New York.
Okay.
You don't remember me, but I remember you.
We had Goodwill.
Nope.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Nope.
Okay.
I knew you wouldn't remember it. I met you at Manhattan State Hospital.
Okay, that's totally correct.
I used to work in Manhattan State. I was a safety officer. When you got there, I had just left the safety officer's ranks and I became a therapist aide. And when you got there, I was just leaving Manhattan State, because you arrived in what, 1982, 83, was it? What year was that?
I came there in 91.
91. Okay,
yes.
So what happens, I would do a lot of business over at Manhattan State Hospital.
Okay.
So I would come back and I met you there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I had a lot of clients over there because I went into the insurance industry and I came back to Manhattan State to make my fortune because I wasn't going to make it there.
I wish you would have come back and worked with me as a safety officer because they gave me hell when I first started. But you know, I persevered. I was failed. I was youngest director there. I was Black. I was directly from the South, and they were taking bets how long I was going to last. We had the
Oh
union,
yeah,
the
I
powerful
know.
union. Yeah, but we survived and we turned it around. I go back there now, and everybody, you know, give me they're glad to see me now. Put it like that.
Well, you're not there anymore, though. But yeah, I remember that well. I thought in my mind, I thought it was before that. I thought it was when I was leaving, but no, it was later than that when I was coming back to do business there. But I did meet you and I did introduce myself and we talked. I said, yeah, I used to work here. But they were stressing you out at that time, at that point. So you probably didn't hear a lot of things that people were saying to you at that time anyway.
But you know what? No, let me say this though. I love that job. It was a great learning experience. It was a big move from the South to New York, and I'm thankful to God for the opportunity. I loved it because I knew I had confidence I could turn it around. I was brought in the turning program around, and I did that. And you know, as a professional, you're a professional, you take great joy when you can see your success. You take great joy in that. And so we were very successful, but it was a learning experience. I had never worked with unions before. Unfortunately, the Southern states do not accept and receive unions.
That's right.
I had seen the few industries with unions and I respected them, but the one-on-one dealing with them, and now overnight, I'm dealing with 4 different unions and trying to make sure I can keep my head above water. It was a great learning experience, and I hope the governor is not listening because I should have been paying them instead of them paying me. They paid me some good money, and I loved with the state. It was a great learning experience. They broke me in, and that was a great platform, I think, to start with. Yes, they frustrated me, gave me some problems. It wasn't all easy like, here's your red carpet, Mr. Gatson. Oh, no, it was here's your hell, your fire and brimstone, Mr. Gatson. Welcome to the club. But, you know, once again, though, I love it, and I thank God for it. I appreciated that. They gave me a nice paycheck, nice benefits. But the learning experience working with unions, working with people, working with all the different city agencies, because we were a state agency, you cannot get that. You know, I mean, there's no way you can just get that, I think, in the world. Here I was getting paid nice money that I'm learning to work with the unions, and you have to learn if you're going to survive and learn to work with different departments, different cultures. I never work in, because you have you were there, you have every culture represented at the facility. And now we have to deal with that and try to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody goes on happy and come back tomorrow and make sure too that we in compliance with all your state, all your federal regulations. And you have to step on some toes to do that. But anyway, the buck stops at your desk. It was a great learning experience. Yes, it caused some frustration, but I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, that was an amazing thing. Because when I left, I was actually a CSCA rep.
Oh,
So I got it. I AFSCME was, with safety. And then when I left there, I became CSCA and I ran for office. And I actually lost. But the person who ran against me was not a member in good standing. So I got in. And when I got in, the hierarchy didn't really want me because they wanted their guy.
Yes.
And they tried.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah. They tried to silence me real quick, but I came back at them pretty hard because I was a young kid. I was in my early 20s. And they told me that I was out of order in one of the meetings. I said, oh, okay. So I went and actually read Robert's Rules of Order and came back. And when I came back, I said, they said, that's a point of order. And that stopped the whole thing. We became great friends. In fact, you probably know one of the gentlemen who was on the board at the time, Fred Daniels.
Yes, Daniels quite well. Yes.
Good friend of mine.
Great nurse, yes. I know him quite well. Great man of integrity.
Right, exactly. We were great friends. We became great friends. And in fact, we stay in touch today. He was in my wedding.
Okay.
He was in my wedding. So yeah, so we got a little history here. We got a little history.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I'm not talking to a stranger. I'm talking to somebody I know and somebody I know of, and I can always check your credentials if I need to.
Yes, you can.
Matter of fact, somebody else who's with us right now. Andrew Watson, you know him too. He was he was at Manhattan State. He's also at Mount Carmel. So I got your back. I got your back.
Good. Yes.
But I want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. I really do. I really appreciate it, because this topic tonight is interesting, because, and I'm glad that you started by telling us where you came from, and your grandmother, and all that she went through, and how you made it through, because that talks about how you take care of yourself while you're going through this thing we call life. Because life can throw at you all kinds of different things, but if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't administer some self-care, life can be overwhelming. It can take you out. It can take you out. Or you can decide that you want to completely check out. And sometimes you do it, as you know, working in a mental institution, a lot of people commit suicide or threaten to commit suicide, and they have to be hospitalized in order to learn how to cope with life again. That's why it's so important to make sure that we are exercising self-care and becoming the living testimonies that others can look to and follow. So thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. You're probably the best man for the evening. And when we made the agreement that you would come, I had no idea what we are going to be talking about. I never know until the Lord tells me. So I thank you for being courageous enough to say yes before you knew what we were going to be talking about. But tell me, you read the article.
Yes, sir.
What did you think when you read it? What are some of your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts went beyond just of taking this secular world and tied into our biblical world, if possible. When I thought about it, and when I think, you know what, this goes beyond just a physical, but how do we deal with the world in general? And I'm thinking about my people destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Most of the ills that plague us, and we don't take care of ourselves, we don't know, and have access to it. And we just don't know, and we don't pursue it. And we take stuff like the organization. It takes a great effort, but if every household had focused on taking care of themselves, I think, you know, we'd be better off. We're taking off the whole person, from the health wise to the mental wise. They really, you know, I listened to a comedian once, and I forgot the name, so I don't want to give one person credit. And he said he was talking about, you know, when Black folks take vacation, and he was talking about me personally. He said, Black folks, what we do, we go down south. We go visit Cousin Nellie, somebody, Auntie Sue. Okay, when white people take vacation, you know, we don't go to a hotel. I don't know if that comes from the fact we were, you know, at one point in time, we couldn't get in hotels, whatever. But he said, no, we just go visit a relative somewhere. When white people go on vacation, so they're gone for 2 weeks. You're not going to see them. You're not going to hear them. You can't call them. And at that point in time, this was like maybe 10 years ago when I heard this, and it dawned on me, you know, he has a point. From the white colors I know, when they go away, and they do them. They might go in the woods somewhere. You hope the bear don't eat them. They're somewhere out there, you know, you wouldn't know. But when they come back, they're well relaxed. And I didn't know anybody in my family, self included, that really takes a vacation to sit back and just breathe. And I still don't know. I do know one cousin, he going to cruise about 3 times a year. And so I think when we should take care of ourselves, we have to apply that and ask ourselves the personal question, are we taking care of ourselves? We carry on so much, especially, I think, those in the clergy, any kind of leadership, because America, that I love, has plagued, especially the Black community, so many issues. And if you don't take care of yourself, that's going to put you flat on your back or 6 feet under. And a lot of us, we try to change the whole world in 7 days. We take on so much. I know so many people, they're doing so many things, more than just taking care of a family. They're doing so many things, trying to take care of everything around them, that you ask yourself, are you really taking yourself? And I have to ask myself that from time to time. Thank God I have some good friends and relatives that stay on my kids, because I find myself in that shoes. I think when we talk about this, are you taking care of yourself too? I think when we look at the issues and ills of society, are we taking advantage of things around us that can prevent some of those ills that plague us as families in America?
Interesting points. I want to go back for a moment. You talk about the vacation piece, and I get that. My wife is a traveler.
Okay.
She's now visiting with relatives, but just 2 weeks ago she was in Peru, and just a month before that she was in Ghana. So she's taking her lessons well. She knows how to travel. But you know, you're right, because when we go places, we tend to go around family. And that doesn't give us a quote unquote peace of mind. It gives us more family to deal with and more stresses that we have to relate to. And then when we come back, we're more stressed out sometimes than we were when we left.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to be careful about that. That's good, because we got to watch how we define self-care. You know, just leaving your job or leaving your place of residence or leaving your environment to go into another environment. It's like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire sometimes. And so we've got to figure out a way to do that, but not get in the fire, to go someplace and to be able to truly relax, to breathe, maybe to you know, I don't want to hide from the bears and the mountain lions, but I get it. I get it. You know, you want to go someplace where you can just, you know, woo-saw, and maybe your phone doesn't ring. Maybe you can't get a telephone call. It's good. That's a good point. It's a good point. And I think a lot of times we don't do that. We really don't do that. So the self-care that we administer in some cultures is quite different than it is in other cultures. In fact, I like to think about what Europeans have a whole different mindset about vacations than we do here in America. Because Europeans, they get like 2 months vacation. Everybody, they go away. I mean, they travel, America. But I think, you know, that insufficient fund check that you talked about, I think they also distribute that same check to everybody, because they trick us. They let us go to school for 10 months. And we get a 2-month vacation. We don't go to school in the summer. Then you get a job and you get 2 weeks vacation. You work 11 months and 2 weeks and you get a 2-week vacation. They tricked us. They tricked us. They got us set up and thought we were going to get like a month vacation when we got out in the world. And when we get out in the world, we found out we ain't get but 2 weeks. That's it. Unless you get unless you're at the top of the chart, top of the hierarchy, you know, when you get a month and a half or 2 months, you get 2 weeks, and you got to relax in 2 weeks. No relaxation, come back to work. So that's interesting. That's interesting, and that's a good point. So your first thoughts were from a holistic perspective, looking at the article, thinking about how it applies not just to your mental and your social, but also to your to the way in which you, and I'm going to add this to what you said, also to the way in which you engage yourself in community and society, because that's another form of self-care. Because if you're not involved in the things in your community, as you have been, because you've been a member of the NAACP in your own words all your life, well, that engagement helps you to develop a living testimony and helps you to care for yourself. Because if you don't get involved in the things that's going on in your community, then you become a victim of whatever goes on in your community. And you walked on two sides of a fence that in our community is very, very difficult to do. Law enforcement and social justice. I tip my hat to you, because that's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. So how did you find yourself able to navigate those two worlds?
Well, I have tried to protect myself at all times. I'm aware one might consider me an enemy on the criminal justice side. So when you have the knowledge and education side, now I've been denied advancement because of where I stood and stand on issues, and that's okay. And I know that going in, it doesn't destroy me or who I am, what I am. But I've tried to be very, very, and I thank God for wisdom and vision, and tiptoeing very carefully, because it can be a very dangerous thing when you're on the criminal justice law enforcement side. Dangerous on that, there can be dangerous politically also. So I've tried to do things that I've gathered good people with me and try to make sure I'm never alone, standing alone on issues. I try to also appeal to people that the issues affect. You know, this whole thing when they had to stop and frisk. Why are you on that side? Because riders on that side. So this is trying to make sure that I have the protection that I need, that I can do the things that I need to do. Walk very carefully. And you know, and accept the fact I've had relationships that folks, you know what, you cannot be with him if you want to advance in this profession because he's a troublemaker. Great relationship, but you know, accepting that doesn't destroy me, doesn't change that. I've held every position on the NAACP, like some youth in college, and there have been times we've had to step up and say, you know, the Black community here, we have our rights too. And plus, see, then I have a knowledge of the law. I know civil rights, so I've applied them carefully and stood on that, and not afraid to stand on that. When people challenge me, they're like, you know, well, the Fourth Amendment speaks for itself. You know, I can pull that out and say, well, you all are wrong. If you disputing at people, Rikers Island, you know, these guys are not getting their rights read. You violate the whole constitutional rights. And, you know, you got to be smart in doing that. That's in black and white. And yes, you could be labeled a troublemaker. But I found it too, in the worst of situations, there are always some good people that's waiting to have somebody to gather around to hang their hat on. So over the years, I've been blessed. I've had good people around me on both sides too that supported me on the social justice side, then on the criminal justice law enforcement side that have said, you know what, we got to go that route because what he's doing and what they're doing is right. The law is on their side. So you know, it's on a day to day. It hadn't been like a, you know, all peaches and cream. You know, I know I've been denied positions and stuff. I was up for a city agency and I was up for a deputy commissioner position. I'm not gonna call the name, and I was neck and neck with another person. And in the interview, the second round, one of the colleagues sitting there gets up and say, "Yes, I know Mr. Gadsden. He was the NAACP spokesperson in the Sean Bell case." You got it. I'm like, well, hell, and it was one of us. I'm like, boy, he sure did me royal, okay? He wanted the other person, and he used that, even though they didn't vote it. But you know, I mean, they didn't say, well, oh, you were with the Sean Bell case, fine. But I knew at that point in time I was finished. I didn't get the position, and you know, so that those things you got to be where you're going to have some backlash. Not going to be easy. But I don't regret where we stood on that when we were working with that for the years. So I don't regret it because I still think the check is here, had not been cashed. And what happened to him? You know, we still those issues. Abuse of us as color. The criminal justice system has been hard on us. And we need people inside that's going to help change it and turn it around. I hope my little bit of contribution have changed something. You know, we testified in every court, state, federal, judiciary court. We testified on the whole stop and frisk. Because stop and frisk it's good for criminal justice, you know, law enforcement. It's bad when it's abused. Yes. And we were comfortably knowing that NYPD was abusing that. So here we are testifying everywhere across the country on the abuse, and we had the numbers and the facts to show, and the constitutional violation. And so, you know what? I was fine doing that because I you know, just sick of me. You see all these black boys coming to jail and have no hope, no faith. And you see the system comes down on them. Now, I'm not giving everybody a blanket ticket of immunity. I think we should be held accountable for our behavior, but it should not be we putting things on people that they did not do. And so we, you know, we stand on, yes, so it has not been easy, but I'm comfortable. I'm satisfied that we have tried to take a stand when need to be.
Now that's an interesting point. I want to spend a minute on that too, because now I'm hearing a lot of chatter in our community because of the increase in violence, and it's you know, the violence is very, very what's the word I want to use? It's just deadly. You know, I mean, folks, you know, half of everybody has a gun. You know, it's easier to get a gun, and shootings become almost a regular occurrence. And so people are saying, you know, maybe we should go back to stop and frisk in order to corral the violence. Now, my response, and this is just, I'm gonna put it out there, my response is that I understand your concern, but the illegality of the way it was used does not permit it to come back the way it was. Now, if they come back with something that will be able to maintain or reduce or to corral the gun violence, it cannot be the stop and frisk that we knew before. Because it was unfair, and it was targeted to people of color, specifically and directly, like most things are. So, you know, I understand your fears and your concerns, but another part of your fear and your concern is that your involvement in the community and the things that help reduce those incidents of violence is not there. You're standing on the sideline when you should be in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's my position, right? I think that you know, if you're not involved in the game, if you're not out there playing in the game, it's difficult for you to say what needs to be done because you don't know what it takes to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not playing the game. You're on the sidelines, you're in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to change this thing that we're in, you've got to get in the game. And I know you understand that. I know you get that because you know your involvement. I mean, to be in law enforcement and to be NAACP, it's almost like diametrically opposed one to the other. You know, they're almost at odds with each other. But I think that Dr. King and those who orchestrated the civil rights movement, including Malcolm and others, would agree that we have to have people at every level of society, in every position. And that's the only way that we'll bring about, and I'm not going to say equality, because equality means that everybody has something. I want it equitable. I want everybody to have what they're supposed to have so that everybody can participate in the game at the same level and not some people, you know, not being able to get in the game, but really can't play because you don't have the equipment. You're in the game, but you don't have a glove. You're in the game, but you don't have a bat. You're in the game, but you don't have a ball. You're in the game, but you know, you can't play. You have no sneakers on. But you're on the team. You're sitting on the bench. But that's not equity. So,
you know what? I know it's not about stopping. I can go back to your stop and frisk for a quick minute because that means those might be listening, might feel that, hey, look, you know what? I want to go back to stop and frisk. As a criminologist, and we study these things, what moved me to speak out against this back years ago is the fact that there's no evidence that stop and frisk reduce crime.
Right.
We had no evidence. You know, what we did have, though, and what used to hurt my heart, I was at Monroe College for a while teaching, and some of our Hispanic students would come in. They were all excited about going in law enforcement. And we were people in there of the community, and they would come in the morning, muddy water on their book sacks and stuff. I'm talking 8 o'clock in the morning because they'd had an encounter with some officers, got in and dumped their bags in the street in the mud. You know, these kids are coming to school for a college education. They're Professor Gasson, we want to change our career. We don't want to go here anymore. And I had to try to work with them to create that mindset. Stopping when you see all these, you know, got to the point you had black boys, they see the police go and throw themselves against the wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the most destructive thing I can see to change somebody's mind and make them think they're a criminal is when you show up, they throw themselves against the wall. That's not the role of law enforcement. You guys want to arrest the bad guy, but all our research shows when you have this gap between the community and the police, crime going to go up. Because every thug, USA style, know I can come in this community, I can rape, rob, kill, steal the members, and they're not going to call the police because they hate the police. So your crime is going up. So you have the exact different results when you increase the stop and frisk. You turn the community. You know, we had all kind of calls, not just every branch in ACP in the city. We had calls from mothers frightened their son would not come home because these young men, it got so angry, it's so degrading. And I hear people say, you know what, if they're not caring nothing to be afraid, it's humiliating. You down at your butt out, you down on the street, your face down, you on the wall. And some of our officers were just to terrorize these young black men, Hispanic men, and just hold them there, just to torment them. That's not criminal justice. That's not crime prevention. As you alluded to a few minutes ago, there are many other things we can do so to go back to stop and frisk. If somebody can show us where stop and frisk led to a reduction in crime, I'll be the first one to say, bring back the illegal stop and frisk. The law, and I teach the students all the time, the law allow us in law enforcement, those in law enforcement, to protect and do your job. The law, Supreme Court specifically sits what stop and frisk is all about. Race is not a factor. It's the reasonable suspicion test. You can do that. We don't have a problem. If you have reasonable suspicion somebody in the process about to kill them crime or just committed a crime, then by all means stop. I want you to pat them down. It might be on my block, but the young brother that's going to the store, that's going to school, the young man who just going out with his girlfriend, that does not fit the reasonable suspicion test. And this was going on, it was like a gamble. Let's stop a whole bunch of black and Hispanic boys, pat them down. One of them might have a gun. You stop 20 in 10 minutes, one might have it. What about the 19 who didn't have it? You know, now you done poison their mind. And some of our communities already, you have low chance, low self-esteem, low chance of hope. You just further that, you just rid of that. So, you know, I'll say this, if somebody can show that stop and frisk leads to reduction in crime, you'll see me tomorrow morning. I'll be at City Hall, bring back stop and frisk. Until that day comes, we will continue to fight against that. Let's go election themselves as justice. And I love the way, and I'm not being political, I hope I don't get you in trouble. I love the way the mayor is going. We better be very careful how we work with this mayor, because the mayor, on one hand, he is saying he's going to religion. You know, we cannot change society unless we get more. Every corner have a church. When you go home tonight, and everybody in your audience, you can count the churches. We've not brought them in. And if we're going to turn this thing around, we're going to have to bring more community agencies in, more churches in, that we can help change people's attitude. I don't have all the answers to it, and I'm not going to claim I do, but I would say this, though, stop and frisk. If you look at when we have the laws changed on stop and frisk, we didn't change stop and frisk. What we changed, check this out, we changed the illegal discriminatory stopping of people of color. We didn't outlaw stop and frisk, still legal, as long as you do as Supreme Court prescribed back in 1969, Terryville, Ohio, you can do the stop and frisk. Stop and frisk is a good thing. If you're down the street, look at every car on my block, I want the police to pat you down and say what you're doing, looking at these cars on the block. That's reason suspicion. But them boys just walking to school or walking to the gym or whatever, leave them alone. That's not reason suspicion. So nevertheless, I don't want to go on that. That's a very, you know, that's a, no, that's, but
that's a part of the living testimonies that I'm talking about. That's a part of self-care, because if you don't have a concern for that, if you're not really, if that doesn't give you a reason to look at yourself and say, what do I need to do in order to make sure that my community is safe from unjust practices? That's important. You don't do that, then, you know, your silence is a consent. So I'm challenging. I challenge my audiences all the time. Make sure that you're standing for what's right. You know, I do a lot of work with the police department. I'm president of Precinct Council. I am clergy liaison. I do ceasefire. I'm involved. I get it. But I'm also, I'll be the first to tell the lineup, hey, if your partner is doing something illegally, or if he's doing something that is detrimental, if you see something, isn't that what we say in New York? If you see something, you say something, because they're putting, not only are they putting the community at risk, they're putting your life at risk. So if they're doing that, you owe it to the department to say something. You know, this wall of blue is a fabrication of a lie. You can't live in that lie. You said it earlier, right is right. It doesn't make a difference what side it's on. Right is right. You can't make wrong right. So you can't twist it so that it fits into your definition of what right is. If they're stopping people and frisking people, and you're sitting on the side and you're saying, well, no harm, no foul. No, they didn't get arrested. But the ordeal that they went through, the ordeal can be, it's PTSD, it's post-traumatic stress syndrome. They can have it for the rest of their life. And it can hinder them in doing other things, because they go and they say, like you said, police come, you assume the position because your mindset has been so altered. And we talk about privilege in the country, which we don't have as people of color. We don't have that privilege. I mean, I've seen with my own eyes, and I was talking to a colleague of mine just the other day who happens to be Anglo, and she was talking about how she was talking to some police officers, and her children happened to be children of color. And her daughter said, Mommy, if I did that, I'd have been locked up. In the same house, in the same family. My mama can do that, but I can't. No, you can't. So we've got to stand up for what is right, because if not, then are we really caring about ourselves? Because you are an extension of me and I'm an extension of you.
Yes, sir.
But Dr. King says, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So we can't just let those things go by and say that I'm taking care of myself, because if you think about me, myself, and I, and that's your only thought, you are sadly mistaken. Not only that, but you are a part of the problem.
Definitely. You know, and when I teach future police officers, I use a prime example of the Abner Louima case, which a lot of people forgotten about. If one officer had the guts to do what was right and say, listen, and my brother's keeper, Cain and Abel, and say, look, they knew you had an officer that was out of control.
Right.
How you know? He's violating every rules in the book. He's way outside the Constitution. He's outside of police practice. He's outside of police academy training. You know this. And not one officer had the gumption to say, we're not, when you see him walking this man across the precinct, closed down, why take the man to the, another secluded in the bathroom? Nobody said nothing. You knew this man was out. And 9 out of 10 times when we look at, and I do search this thing for the NCP, police brutality case, they're not done in isolation. You didn't do anything, but you were there and you didn't stop it. Right. Why I use the Louima case is because now, because of that, because none of you all did anything, this officer got 30 years. Unfortunately, his father died. He wasn't around. His wife didn't have a husband for all these decades. The partner who did nothing got close to 20 years. Now they got it early, but all their career was destroyed. Right. They did all that time in jail. And now look what happened in the community. We fractured the community because you all raped a black man in a police precinct where it should be safe at. If one officer had the gall and the guts to say, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. No, no, no. And I've been in those situations and with other officers too. And we, I was trained and we've done, say, no, we got this, we got this. If one officer had the gumption, Lehman would have taken place, okay? You wouldn't have fractured the city. It split off to a fracture with the Jewish community also, because nobody had the heart and soul to say, you are wrong, man, you out of control. They would have helped him out. If you next to the wall of blue, you would have helped you, because your buddy, he did over 20 years behind bars. His other buddy did, I think, 16 years behind bars, because nobody had the guts. But we cannot measure the damage was done in that community that already had a poor perception of law enforcement. We don't know how much crime was increased because people had a further hatred of the police, because nobody, and half the squad that night, you knew this was wrong. You were in the precinct. This did not take place in a corner, but nobody had the guts enough to stand up and say, you wrong, Doc, calm down. Look what happened. Look at the consequences. What happened?
And you really make a great point, and that's a great illustration. I remember the Abner Louima situation. I remember the Amadou Diallo situation. That's in my neighborhood where I lived over there, so I get it. And those things are right. And I say this all the time: when good people do nothing, bad things always happen. And if anybody, any single one of them, would have said, "No, that's wrong," you're right. It was everybody lost. Even though Abner Louima got paid money, that never could take away from the trauma that he experienced. That was a no-win situation. Every single person lost. The community lost. The department lost. The officers lost. The victim, nobody won. That was like, what was the name of this movie? Oh gosh, I just talked about the other day, where it was a war game, and there was a computer, and the computer fabricated a war, and it was literally telling the Russians that there was a war, in the United States that there was a war, and they were the computer was pushing the buttons, and the designer of the computer, Matthew Broderick, was in it. He was a teenager, he was a kid. The computer, the man who built it, gave it a game to play to teach it so it would learn. You know what the game was?
What?
Tic-tac-toe.
Whoa. Okay.
You can't win tic-tac-toe. I don't care what, if you stay away, you can't win. So it did all of these different configurations and then figured out that it would be a no-win situation, that everybody would die. So the computer shut it down. That was AI before AI was AI. But that's what has to happen, right? We have to look at it and we have to say to ourselves, this is a no-win situation and I can't allow it to take place. That's self-care, because when I care about myself, the Bible, Jesus talks about love your neighbor as you love yourself. You can't, if I don't love you, I can't say that I love myself. No way.
Nope.
Now, one about, I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't want to jump in. Go ahead.
No, I'm finished.
I was going to say that one of our viewers is a retired police officer, and I love Erica. She's always there. She's just so transparent. I love her. She says, I wouldn't have, that is why I wasn't well liked. They want you to join in with blue, not go against it. Yet I didn't care. And then she talked about her son, her children, and how she had fear for them, even though she was on the job, for their safety. So she had to teach them what to do if and when they were stopped. You know, isn't it interesting? We talk about the talk, right? In communities of color, we talk about the talk. Everybody knows what we're talking about when we talk about the talk. Everybody, without exception. What is the talk? What do you do when a police officer stops you? That's the talk, right? How do you handle yourself in public situations when you're a person of color? That's the talk, right? You know, let's go back a minute. Look at down in, was it Mississippi? When a kid whistled at a woman and started the civil rights movement because they killed him, right? What do you do in those types of environments? That's the talk. Everybody knows it. That should not be. That needs to be eradicated. Someone said, I think it was, who was it? Said, first, I'm a human being. Oh, Herbie Hancock said it. Herbie Hancock said, before all the other things, first, I'm a human being. And that's true. That our position, our place in life has first got to be, I'm human. Not I'm Black, not I'm a cop, not I'm a lawyer, not my role. Not the role is not who you are, it's what you do. And I think we get it mixed up sometimes. And I said it in the article that we get so involved in what we do that we forget who we are. And if you ever forget who you are, it's easy, since we're talking about police, to fall into the code, the blue code of what is it? What do they call it?
The blue wall of silence.
There you go.
That's what we call it.
Easy,
and, you know,
to fall into.
Won't be one of them.
Yep.
Yep. You
know,
know,
that because you've forgotten who you are. You can't ever forget who you are.
You know, and true, we all want to belong.
Yes.
And you're there, and we very seldom we have a majority of us there. It's very easy. Let me just go along, look the other way, let them do, and they will accept me. They invite me to their cookouts on the weekend. We can hang together, and we have a camaraderie. It's very easy to go that route if you don't stand for something. I want to just shout out to your listener, Miss Erica. My respect to her. I'm sure she's a woman of color. She talk about the talk, and you know, we talk about our issues. Black women have it because this is a predominantly male, white male, predominantly profession. And so Black women really have it hard coming through the academy, everything the system set up to stop them because we, with our prejudice, our ism and our schism. So my compliment, my congratulations to her and what she's accomplished and what she's accomplishing. I know it wasn't an easy walk for her as a woman of color. This thing, they do make it difficult when you stand up. That is, believe it or not, that's why I'm in New York. Because when I first started on the street in Richland County, you know, if they give me one promotion, I love Columbia, South Carolina. I was the man. I loved it. I was about to go to trustee board of my church, First Nazareth Baptist Church, Columbia, South Carolina. We just started a new social organization. We just started a new grad chapter of my fraternity. We left the old grad chapter to start a new one. I was living it. I love it. I love Columbia. But the thing is, when I keep training people, they get promoted over me because what happened, they didn't trust me. They needed me because I can go and calm the storm down. Because I grew up Black and poor. I could go in anybody, and I learned that respect is so big. If I go in a man's house and he got 3 legs on his table, he's still a man. So I go there and do what we need to do, make the arrest, and people knew I had we're not beating the hell out of nobody today or tonight.
Right.
I have more because I see me. I see me. I grew up with people like this. This is me. I know when people just need to let off some steam when they're raising hell. Now you're not gonna abuse me now, okay? But you know, I can respect that. And so people, when they would turn themselves in, they would call me. And I would go, we pick people up. So our rate went up. So I could go in the community and calm people down. They want to raise hell. Not that I wasn't, and I'm no bad person, believe it, I'm not that, but I could always respect people. Even though I got arrested, I could respect people. And so they needed me. But what happened though, they might come in the house and go down there. They needed me, but they didn't trust me. So they would not promote me. They gave me a lot of goodies, extra duty, my own car kind of stuff. But I wanted a gold badge.
Yeah.
And after seeing people I train get gold badges and they having situations, they calling me to help resolve it. I said, I reached that out. And I'm not regretting that because I like that. I'm kind of, hey, no, you can't beat him. No, I got him. I'm taking him in. We taking him in. My partner, we got him. That's okay. And so, stuff get out. I'll write the report up. And I know they're going to tear the report up, but I saw also so-and-so choking so-and-so. I saw him hold him down and so-and-so kicking him. And so I know I don't check my clothes off because I know I get a phone call. What the hell wrong with you? Come back, and change what's wrong with you.
Rewrite your report, huh?
Yes, but guess what? You don't know, do I have a copy of the report or not? Now that's an order. I'm going to rewrite it. So they cannot trust me, but they need me. But I realized they're not going to put me other higher. I'm not getting any higher. So that's why I had to come to New York to see. I got in the hospital police safety. Thank God I got that. Because I knew I wasn't going to. If I had gotten one move up as far as they put me warrants and all that stuff, I used to run K-Down. If I had gotten one promotion up, the gold badge, I would have been still in South Carolina, ready to retire probably. And so, yes, they do make it difficult when you stand up with everybody of color. And not just, I work with some great people, men of color. And unfortunately, those men never got promoted like they should have. Yeah. And a lot of those guys retired now, but they would not fall for anything. They would take a stand on the law. They would stop that. But their punishment, now those who did, they moved up. And we have no respect for them. We don't communicate. We don't associate with them. But there were a lot of guys that I learned from that were and they were denied moving up. They didn't get an opportunity. I had an opportunity to come to New York, and I thank God for that. And I did. But a lot of guys I left behind, they didn't get that chance. And so, yes, you got to make a decision where you're going to stand. But I do believe we have to encourage people of color and women to go into law enforcement and not forget who they are when they get there. Be strong. That's how we could change the system. And I always trying to push recruitment of people, of minority, push program to recruit them because it's a good profession. As my father once told me years ago, before he died, he said, look, son, whenever you see a profession occupied by white people, you know it's a good profession, pays good money, okay? And it's the truth. And so, but the best way we can really help our community is get as many people of color, we in the law enforcement, and make sure they understand what you do when you get there. Make sure they understand who they are and where they're from.
I appreciate that. I really do. I was at I went to the historical Black College University football game out at the Meadowlands, right? Yeah. And I met that, they had a police recruitment tent there, all military and also the law enforcement. And I met a gentleman. He is actually from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. They say a lot of their new officers are coming from the north down there. And we had a nice little chit chat, a brother, man of color. And we were talking honestly and openly about the challenges that he faced while he was there and while he's on the job, because now he's in the recruitment area. But, he gave me some reason to be encouraged because he says more and more people are coming on the job who are people of color. And that's an important thing to happen so that some of the atrocities that have been transpiring are not as prevalent as they were before, because of the fact that they're now engaging a lot more people of color, even in places like Charlotte-Mecklenburg, which is, historic. My family's from South Carolina. My mama's from South Carolina. My mama's from Pickens, by the way, just in case.
Okay.
So, that is a little town where people are not promoted. But I just wanted to say this to you as well. One of my friends, New York City Police Department, has to be Latino, never was able to get promoted. Never. I mean, he got to the rank of deputy inspector and realized he would never be promoted beyond that. because, you know, the highest rank you could go in the police department is by tests, captain. After that, it's all personality. So if nobody likes you, you ain't going nowhere. So that's the way that works. And so interestingly, because I've been working with the police and volunteer capacities now for about 15 years. So I've done more ride along, I think, than anybody in the history of the department because of ceasefire. Are you familiar with ceasefire, right? Which is an amazing thing because I was able to go out with commanding officers and the white shirts as well as the rank and file. And what happens is interesting. The more often you go out with them, you know, they just kind of inculcate you into the culture. I was like, I had to tell them, I said, I'm not a cop. Not a cop. But they would talk to me and they would share with me. And then I'm a minister. So they would share with me confidentially. I would never divulge anything that they said to me of anything. But it's interesting because I got a chance to hear what they were saying. And I got a chance to feel what they were feeling. And I saw it myself. I responded to shots being fired. I was in the car. We did that. I've seen that. And then, of course, my years in safety, you know, I was a police officer for the state of New York. Simple as that. And so I had some training in that area and as a fireman, because, you know, the one thing I liked about safety is that you're a fire and police. You
combined.
Get
one salary. One salary.
That's right. 2 jobs, 1 salary. But that was an amazing thing. And just to FYI you, you know, the fire, when you got firehouse duty, that was a day off. And of course, I think one time I got it. Wouldn't you know it, a fire broke out.
In a mental hospital of all
exactly. And I had to drive the truck and put the fire out. It was in a trash bin, but it was a fire nonetheless. But it was I said, nobody gets the firehouse and gets a call. Nobody except me. I'm the only guy. Only one who ever drove the truck out actually to anything that you had to do something with it outside of just driving it, you know, and washing it or something like that. Just, you know, just to move it, just to make sure it still moves when need be. But it was interesting. It was interesting. So listen, here's the thing. We're at the top of the hour. I'm just a little bit over 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ghost for a moment. And you can do likewise. I'm just going to disappear. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to, you know, read the article again. I'm going to recognize our sponsors and advertisers. And then I want to come back. And when I come back, I want to engage some of the things that have been, some of the comments that have been made on the Facebook page and the answer to the question that I placed on the table, because I did ask a question, a challenge question tonight. And I really want those of you who are watching to engage that question, because I really want to talk about it. I really want you to ask yourself and then to engage with us so that we can bring you into the conversation. We've had a nice conversation, a nice rounded conversation, but now we want to bring you in. So here's the question. In what ways are the so-called, nope, that's not the one I want. I don't want that. That's Saints of God. I don't want that one. That was last week's question. This week's question is a little different. This week's question is, you know, why is it important for us to engage self-care, especially those who have been called into Christian or into leadership? Why is it so important for us to practice or engage self-care? Okay, so we're going to disappear for just a moment. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Don't forget to support our advertisers and our sponsors, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting, LLC, for all of your church financial consulting needs. Check out our website, www.jlaurenrussell.consulting.com. That's www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. Or simply give us a call, 718-328-8096, 718-328-8096. If you want to train your trustees, if you want to develop your property, if you need a church loan, give us a call. We'll be there to help. Matters of Faith, the book, can be purchased at my Cash App, $Matters of Faith. The cost of the book is $22.80. That's $22.80. You can send your check or money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. Get the book. It will absolutely bless your life. You can also get it as an ebook. All you need to do is go to www.smashwords.com/view/993177. That's www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. The book has no shipping and handling if you get it as an ebook. And also check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. And finally, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel.
Let me add just one more thing. Get your subscription to Better Mag magazine today. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50. That's www.abettermag.com. www.abettermag.com. And now the article, Living Testimonies. That article can be found in my column, Matters of Faith, at the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com. The Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com. Black Westchester Magazine, and Pamela's Big Heart newsletter, Living Testimonies. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9 from the New King James Version. Only take heed to yourself, and diligently keep yourself, lest you forget the things your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life, and teach them to your children and your grandchildren. Living Testimonies. I think most would agree that you can't adequately take care of someone else if you haven't cared for yourself first. Many times we hear of the caretaker's health failing before the one they are caring for because they neglected self-care. It's critically important that we take care of ourselves so that we can take advantage of all the gifts and talents we've been blessed with. The thing that challenges us in our attempt to care for ourselves is understanding what is required to be our best selves. When Moses wrote the book of Deuteronomy, he was sharing with the new generation the things the Lord required of them. In the scripture text, the word heed is translated care in the New American Standard 2020 version and says, only be careful for yourself and watch over your soul diligently. By using the word careful, Moses was directing them to live as the embodiment of self-care. Then they would be enabled to teach their children and their children's children. Often we find ourselves so busy doing things that we miss or forget who we are in the process. Moses presents his statement as a matter of fact. He was not making a suggestion, but giving a directive. If you are going to care for others, you must care for yourself first. This message could have easily been directed at current-day believers. Like the children of Israel, our best is revealed by living a lifestyle that glorifies God the Father. Moses challenged his readers, and he challenges us today by asking in verses 7 and 8, for what great nation is there that has God so near to it, as the Lord our God is to us? For whatever reason we call upon him. And that great nation, what great nation is there that has such status and righteous judgments as are in all this law which I set before you this day? I contend that we are at our best when we practice self-care. It reveals who we are and ultimately who we were created to be. We become living testimonies first by caring for and watching over our own souls diligently. Be blessed. And now my question for the last time tonight. Why is it so important that we consistently practice self-care, especially those who are our spiritual leaders? Let me ask it again. As you know, I want you to really think about this, and I want to engage you in this conversation. Why is it so important that we consistently practice self-care, especially those who are our spiritual leaders. Well, I read some of his bio. You don't know everything about him, but you know enough, at least, to know that you don't want to miss any more of this show tonight. Telephone, tell a friend that we're on again with our very special guest, Deacon Dr. Leroy Gadsden. Now, listen, this man is phenomenal. He's a history maker. He's doing it. He's making it happen. And he's actually implementing and practicing self-care. So welcome with me tonight for the second half of this episode, this show, my very, very special guest and my colleague, Deacon Dr. Leroy Gadsden. All right, that brings us back. We are here. Let me stop my share. We don't need to see that anymore. And we're good. We're good. So Dr. Gadsden, let me ask you something. Let me ask you, hold on for just 1 second. I got something going on that I didn't want to happen. Okay, good. I just want to ask you a question. What are your what's the word I'm looking for? What are the one thing that if I could say ask you for a major, if there's one thing that you could put your finger on that helps you to make sure that you prioritize your own well-being so that you can continue to do all of the things that you're doing, walking that thin line and and doing it in a way that's does not I don't know if I'm asking this right, but does not um overlap one and the other, because you are literally walking this line. But I think self-care has got to be the most important thing that you do in order to do what you do. So I hope that's a question that you could answer, because it's all convoluted and stuff. But.
Yes, yes. And I'm not an expert on that in taking care of stuff. I'm not an expert on that. I will be the first to admit that. I get so caught up sometime, and I have to take a minute myself and say, you need to settle down and do something that you like. Just relax for a minute, And so basically, I have to fight and work with it. I have to fight and work. I do have a very good friend, been friend for years, that all the time will remind me, check on me and say, well, look, what have you done to take it easy for a while? Every time I'm reading this, you in this paper, that paper, I'm hearing this and seeing that. And believe it or not, she's not in a little place called Bishopville, South Carolina. We go back for decades. And so I have a very good friend remind me, I might just take a drive, I might just take a day, a weekend, just go. I might just go to a hotel somewhere by myself. Let me say that on your show. I might just go and just do nothing. But
Okay.
that's not easy for me, because I have trouble. Really trouble just to do nothing. I feel like, the world is short time and there's a responsibility I have to live up to. But I go back to where your question is, if you can't help yourself, you can't help nobody else if you're out, down and out. So it's not easy. And I will hope young people will try to learn that at a younger age, which I did not. I felt this, I got to do all I can today. And I felt that, and for years I felt that way. And but right now I try to just, like, I got a good colleague and we like brothers and sisters, we go way back. Every now and then I will get a call. What are you doing to take care of yourself, to relax? And I would say this, if I'm not pushed, I don't think I would, because I like being busy. But like I say, it's a lot of stress. You're busy, your phone ringing all the time. People have needs, and you put their needs before your needs. And that's not good. That's not a good thing. But you think you can do that, and you feel comfortable, I can do that with this person. And people have so many needs. Our society really does not help people, one thing, as they could and should. On the second thing, too, a lot of people just don't feel that society, these government agencies can help them. And on the third thing, too, they've lost faith. And people fall through the cracks. We got to think people fall through the cracks at time, and you feel obligated to try to do something to help them. They trying to keep their job. Young man called me last night. I say, I don't keep telling me, get in, give me a call. A friend of mine, I got in, work, got in, called him up, and the day they get ready to fire him. Now he has 2 children to feed, So how do we not respond to that? And I feel obligated and compelled, the little I know, because I also was a director of affirmative action with the state and dealt with labor and the union grievance and stuff. And for what he's going through, I don't think they have the ground. So I want to work with him. So it's a matter of I have to work at it, if that make any sense. I have to like I schedule a meeting or something like that. I have to schedule time and say on this weekend here, Leroy is going away. I'm not scheduling nothing. I don't care what. I'm not putting nothing on that weekend. I just got to go and take some time. And I like to do a little, I love to read and always remind myself of the 27th Psalm. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? So I try to go away and I found a place and I ask them not do nothing. I just I let the pastor know I'm out of town. I'm gone. That everything I'm with, I let them know, job, I'm gone. Not but for a weekend. I still not taking quote unquote the white man's vacation. I have not done that, but I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. So I'm trying to get better at it. And so I will hope people that are younger start right now, make sure you put some time aside for self. Make sure you put some time aside for self. And you got to no restriction.
Right, no, keep going.
And you got no restriction. You got I don't care what happened, time for self. And because like I say, family, love family, very supportive, but family your free time is family fun time and busy time. We got to do this. You ain't doing nothing. Yes, you are. And we got to see time for self as something. That's why you got to schedule it. Because family will schedule time for you. Family don't understand and respect the fact you need some downtime. And they know you got time, you're not doing this. So I don't tell family. I don't tell them. I just go away and be away maybe for a weekend or so. I'm building up that I can go for 2 weeks. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I can go for 2 weeks, leave the cell phone. I'll handle it when I get back. I'm not there yet. I'm to that 1 weekend at the month. I'm going away. I'm not let nothing going to interfere with that. So, but it is a job. You got to really be strictly enforcing about it.
I like your transparency on that because I have similar kinds of issues because I do a lot of things.
I know we do. Yes, you're all over the place.
And I sort of spin a lot, right? But I people ask me, what do you do to relax? I exercise. I like exercising. I like getting on that little Stairmaster that I have. I like reading. I love reading, and actually I like preaching. So that's for me.
That's relaxing.
It is relaxing to me. But I think more than I like speaking to people and inspiring them and giving them something to look forward to. That to me is actually relaxing because I'm concerned about what happens to people. And so, I told people, I used to say this a lot. I said, I'm pregnant and I don't want to have a miscarriage.
Okay.
I got to bring this baby to term. I gotta get this baby out. And the baby just keeps coming, so I'm just giving birth and I'm having these multiple births. But I've got this stuff in me and I can't take it with me. I've got to get it out. And then quite a few years ago, my wife and I, and as I said earlier, my wife is a traveler. My wife does this she's really good at it. I'm not. But we bought timeshare.
Okay.
And I did that years ago when I left Manhattan State. I've had timeshares since the 80s because I knew that I needed to force myself to go away. So actually every year, the week of my anniversary, we go away every year. So we're going to do that. And the only thing that I don't do is turn my phone off. See, that's an important piece. The phone is still on, phone still rings, still answers, still get the emails and the texts and stuff, and I tend to answer them. But I got to get to the point that I got to be able to not answer them and just kind of woosah, just take it. But when I go away, I do try to get away. I went on a cruise this past summer. That was great because I couldn't be on the phone. It's like I love it. No phone, no text, no email, no nothing. And so I'm embarking this year on a pretty major task, and I got a lot of things I need to do, a lot of meetings I need to attend. So until pretty much the end of the year, I'll be very, very busy. But then after that, it's kind of I can coast down the rest of the way. But it's and July hit, of next year, then I'm finished with this, and I'm going to take some time, some much deserved time to spend with myself. So I know you're right. And I'm glad that you're transparent about it, because a lot of people have problems with taking vacation. I told you they set us up when we went to school. They set us up.
Yes.
Told us they gave us 2 months of vacation every year. And then we go to work and we get 2 weeks vacation. That was a setup. So we don't know how to relax. I think I'm envious of Europeans, because they get like 2 months off. And they do travel, they do go. And they find themselves in different countries all over the world, stuff like that. So that's important. Let me share some of the things that have been said, and we can talk about them. The question: why is it so important that we consistently practice self-care, especially those who are our spiritual leaders? And one of the things that I'm concerned about, I don't know about you, but I'm concerned about our spiritual leaders being burnt out. Because, if our spiritual leaders get burnt out, then who's going to cover us? And though, with prayer and be there when we need them if they're burnt out. And so we got to keep that in mind. And so, why is it so important that we consistently is the key word there, practice self-care?
Well, I think if you look at the, and I think about your question, for those, when we fly on the airline, the first thing they tell you, if we go into turbulence and the mask drop, put your mask on first, then help your child or someone else put theirs on. And I think that's a lesson there. And we talk about self-care, because what the airline is telling, because if you pass out, you can't help nobody else. So make sure you get yours on first to sustain yourself, not being a selfish thing. Prepare yourself to help somebody else. And I think, back to you said the spiritual leaders, same thing. We need our spiritual leaders. And they try to keep carry on. Let's take a minute and try to take care of themselves. They will not be, and there's so many, depends on our spiritual leaders, so many in the community. And that just, as we are as a people, so many of us depend on the spiritual leaders. So if you go down, you can't take care of yourself. Unfortunately, everybody goes down with you that depend on you. So you got to take a minute and take it whole. And I hope my pastor, who's I love and respect, is listening tonight, because we're trying to convince him, or putting the business out there. You need 4 weeks vacation, but he's so committed, excuse me, to the ministry. You don't want the 4 weeks. And I'll tell any church member, if you're your pastor, I don't care if you got to fight with whoever, your pastor need those 4 weeks. If you want your pastor to be the pastor to be around, he need those 4 weeks. And it must be those 4 weeks. And we should help members understand too, his 4 week or her 4 weeks, their 4 weeks. Respect that. Respect that. That way, officers for respect that, and that is good churching. That's a word I created the other week. That is good churching to make sure your leader, because your leader take care of you, you take care of your leader, so to say, that he or she will get the rest he need or she needs, so that they can do the job that God has called them to do. That is so important. We take care. However they take care of themselves, make sure that's your job to make sure they are taken care of and they take care of themselves.
Right, and you're so right. And it's interesting because I've seen so many churches abuse their leaders.
Yes, sir.
So many, and it's unfortunate because even to the point that they don't take care of them enough, so that if anything would have happened to them, their family would be taken care of. I've seen it happen. I know a prominent pastor here in New York that died. And with a parsonage. And when he died, they told the wife, you got to go.
Yes, sir.
Nowhere to go. Right? Because the church didn't provide for that. That's not good. That's not good care. That's not
good churching.
Not good church. That's right.
I work at a law firm. I'm a lawyer. God has blessed me. I tell you, as a lawyer, and we handle numerous of those cases of fighting who got rights and stuff after pastor dies. And since we're on this area, I would tell any church member, if you really love your pastor, as you say you do, you should show it. Make sure the pastor, I've seen pastors, people, well, he can't retire. He doesn't have a pension.
Yeah.
Your pastor's 80 years old.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
He said, I come and preach every Sunday morning and deal with everything in the community. He can't retire. He doesn't have a pension. So if your pastor not have a pension, that's not taking care of your pastor. He needs to take care of himself now. He's 80 years old. And you said the fact is, now, heaven forbid the law call him home or call her home, what happened to the pastor's family.
That's right.
You know, we got to make sure as members, and you don't have to be an officer, you're a member, you pay tithes. That give you the right to speak up. You're a child of God. Say, wait a minute, what kind of care package we got for the pastor? So he ain't got to worry where he can lay his head at night. We got to make sure those things taking place. And I've seen too many cases, like I said, I've seen too many cases, and it's getting very nasty and ugly. And people at the material possession, you know, that widow, she is not the pastor. I know a nasty situation too, very nasty, ugly. And people asking for legal advice on that. Oh, by law, right, they had the right to evict because unfortunately, nobody included her in anything when they were giving out. Even though in New York, if you say that that's supposed to be yours, but New York state law don't want to cross the church policy and procedure. And these things, I know, very nasty, several very nasty, very ugly. And I'm like, well, you know, how can children of God throw this woman out on the street or throw this woman out on the street? This
Literally,
is not our concern. You know, and you look at the law, sometimes the law's on their side because nobody put it in writing a stone what's going to happen in the after effect when pastor is no longer pastor. So those are things that church members, if you love your pastor, make sure those things are in place. And that's just the right thing to do. And that's the godly thing to do.
Absolutely. You know, I do financial services. I still do financial services. And, you know, I created this, I actually copywrote it. I called it the Selective Pastoral Retirement Plan.
Okay.
And it was designed to give pastors a package that included life insurance, retirement, disability, all of those packaged into one product, into one package. Why? Because persons don't always die, they get sick, right? They get sick. I mean, they don't just drop dead. They get sick and they linger and they have no income. Have nothing. And then the church hasn't provided. And you know, we're talking about the church. It happens on businesses too, but the church in particular, because we're supposed to be the conscience of America. We're supposed to be the conscience of the people. We're supposed to be representing God. And so the church is supposed to be the living testimony of what's right. And so I remember bringing this to a number of different churches, and they just like turned a blind eye to it. And I took it, I remember doing one church in Brooklyn. And I went to a small church. They said, you know, we want to do this for our pastor. They did it. Got the whole package, the whole night. I mean, it's beautiful. I was so happy. And years later, I was called and they were looking to purchase another property. I was asked to come and speak at this church and you know, over Empire Boulevard. So I went over, walk in, y'all look from, you know, look a little familiar. So I did what I had to do. I'm sitting upstairs. So, well, pastor's here. I said, really? Yeah, he's upstairs. So I go upstairs. I look at this gentleman. I said, you look familiar. They said, oh, he had a stroke. He had a stroke. So, and he hasn't been to church, but he came tonight because of the kids, you know, but he's doing okay. Come to find out, that was the church that I gave that package to.
Okay.
And they said to me, they said, had he not had that, we would have not been able to purchase this building because we would have had to use the money that came in. What you did was you set it up so that we had money coming into the church to pay someone else to replace the pastor while he was rehabilitating. And the pastor got an income from the disability. He got the income.
Okay.
But it didn't take anything away from the coffers of the church, right? And then what they did was, of course, they had money coming into the church to pay someone to do the duties of the pastor until he was able to come back. And if he never came back, they would always have that money coming in.
That's supposed to be.
That's the way it's supposed to be. And then, of course, you know, the money that he was getting, there was money coming in, they could still contribute to his retirement plan. So when it was time, so he didn't die. So when it was time for him to retire, he still got a full retirement package.
For his decades of service.
Absolutely.
He's taking care of it.
Absolutely. And I, you know, and I'm saying to myself, why isn't everybody in line to do this? Why not?
Well, you know, and I'm glad you're doing the training that you're doing, because unfortunately, there's no place really in society where you get this stuff at. You grow up, you come into church, you think the officer's taking care of that. You don't think about, you know, you go on a job, we have people in the HR department, and that's their job to put you in a package. You come into the church, you work in the church, it's not specified. You know, the old trustees might not have any money, they pass on to the new trustees. Now they got the money, but there's nothing really in place. Say, hey, bold print, take care of your pastor.
Right.
We got another church. I know there's some legal advice saying what you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, I got some bad news for you. What happened? The pastor labored for what, 30-something years. I forgot the exact number. Now he's ready to retire. He don't have the package, he don't have a package. They love and respect him. What they want to do, they want to sell the building and give him the proceeds that he built it up all these years. I'm like, legally speaking, I got some bad news for you.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. Yes, sir. That's the bad news.
Right.
That was bought with you are a non-taxable entity.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Non-for-profit organization.
Non-for-profit.
You don't own this. This is public property.
You can't sell that and give it to a person.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm gonna just leave the room. You call me here, I'm giving you the best advice before you get a real estate. I don't be a part of this because I can see in their mind they're gonna go ahead with it. I don't be associated with it. On one hand, I love and respect the fact they still care about this man this pastor as he retired. But on the second hand, because y'all failed to act, and I don't know all that stuff you told the fans because they didn't do the financial package or nothing in place for him a pension. Now you're forced to do that. You're forced to do something illegal. If the government find out about it, they're gonna take it. So I'm like, well, I'm out of here. And I don't know how to. I don't know. I don't want to know.
Gave you my advice. That's it. That's all I can do.
You can't do that. You cannot sell that because the laws, how you dispose of non-profit property, the laws are very specific how you dispose of that, and you can't sell it for a profit and give it to anybody else. It was prime real estate. So if they did it, and I don't want to know, but the sad part about the moral of the story is, if only they had engaged.
That's all they have to do.
Something they wouldn't be in that position. That now they want to do something, but they can't. Only thing they got is the building itself. So I'm glad you got the class. I hope people take that, because technically speaking, we don't think about that when the pastor come and they in their heyday and they're all out there preaching, they serving us, serving the community and stuff. We really don't think about, what gonna happen 20 years from now. What's gonna happen? We don't think about that. So,
and I do. I still do it. I do trustee training because they don't know what to do. They're there, like you said. They went from one generation to another, new generation comes in, the information that the previous trustees might have transferred to them is antiquated. It's not current. And so they didn't know how to do it. They just got by with what they were doing. But now, you have to know what you're doing because you're legally responsible for these things. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're putting yourself in a compromising position. And if someone in the church says that they challenge something, they challenge it, and they'll go to court. Challenge it. I think they're misusing the funds. Do you know if they find that you have misused those funds, that you are the fiduciary responsible for that money, and you will be charged accordingly? You better get on the case, and that's important because you want to do the right thing, and then we pinch pennies, and we literally, by doing that, we negate the dollars that they can bring because we try to pinch stuff, and hold on to it. It doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. So we got to get this thing right.
But I'm going to ask if I can jump in for a second. I want you to repeat that fiduciary responsibility, because I said in legal, it matters so many times, and a lot of people don't understand. Could you please just go over that again for those who might be listening, want to go to church and tell they might be trustees? That's what you're saying is so important. If you could go over that fiduciary responsibility.
Well, you're the lawyer, you tell them.
Well, you got the class. But nevertheless, when you sign a pledge on that trustee board, and if you own property, what they call joint and severe liability, you own the biggest house on the trustee board. The other trustees don't own anything. Somebody come after you, your house going, and the other trustees can come and get their money back. And that's a responsibility. If you're not bonded, I would say if you can be on a trustee board, you should be bonded. And here what I hear so often, I wasn't at the meeting. Doesn't matter. Right. You accept the role as you still a trustee. You should have been at the meeting. Vote. Well, they do what they do, and I see so many trustees getting in trouble with
right. They're gonna do what they want to do anyway.
Yeah, but you better raise issue and vote against or vote up, or convince them this is no. You're not gonna be the most loved, but as the Reverend was saying though, the fiduciary responsibility. Not only fiduciary, you got responsibility to the people because they trust you, trustee, to manage their funds accordingly.
That's right.
They trust you.
That's right.
That's what you have to do. And far too often, hear people say, well, you know, they can do what they want to do. No,
Right.
you have a role to play in that from the legal aspect. And let me say this, Everett, and I'm going to get off this for a minute. And you really should be very cautious, especially church members too, that the trust you have in your affair in order, because there was a time when the church, and from the legal perspective, you know, the courts tried to avoid the church and didn't want to get involved with church matter. But people, once the love of money, the root of all evil, the church is no longer separated and sacred anymore. What's going on now? Your average church, if you go nationwide, and I look at the research, your average Black church sits on prime real estate. And you know, and you a nonprofit, so your tax is not there. But here go big money developer, that the developer comes in, he see millions of dollars. You see the cross, he see the dollar sign. Now you in court, you can't defend yourself because you didn't handle your books right. You're not fiduciary responsible. They just took your property. You having church on the street, wonder what happened in the church. Y'all just put all the money into. Get your books right. Get your house in order. Because also too, though, and I don't want to create a controversy, but the church is the last holdout, and people can be who they want to be, love who you want to love. But there's another community, LGBTQ community, you know, is trying to convince everybody to go in their direction. Now, you can do what you want. I'm not criticizing. That's their responsibility. That's what they want to do, et cetera, et cetera. But you go to court and you have a judge and you saying that, you know, that's an abomination, then those judges no longer on the court, on the church's favor. There was a time you couldn't pay a judge to interfere with a court. Unless you shot somebody in the middle of the pulpit or something like that, the courts are going to say, well, y'all go work it out. That have changed. And now most of our judges are elected or appointed, some kind of a little process. There's a lot of money involved, and our churches sits on prime real estate. And we see too many cases that churches are losing their property. And they're like, you know, what happened? You didn't handle your books correctly. You didn't do fiduciary. You should not be engaged in any kind of business practice unless you have a lawyer you can trust out of your community that know what he or she is doing, because they will take your property.
See, because you can have an attorney that doesn't know what they're doing.
There you go.
That you know that there are areas of expertise that lawyers have, that if they're not in the real estate area, then your lawyer, you better make sure you get the right guy, because the right woman, the right person, because if not, you can find yourself. And you said, but then my attorney said, and then the attorney said, well, that's not my area of expertise.
I'm a criminal lawyer.
Exactly.
I'm a criminal defense lawyer.
Right. I remember speaking with, because, you know, I do financial services, and one of my clients was selling the house. You know, she wanted to sell a house, and I was helping her to do that. And so I reached out to one of my friends who's an attorney. He said, no. He said, I don't do that. He said, I'll refer you to a friend of mine. That's what she does. So I said, well, you can't handle it? He said, I can, but I don't know what I'm doing. He said, she knows what she's doing. This is what she does every day. I said, no problem. She's one of the best connections I've had, because I know that if I speak to her, she knows what she's doing, and I don't have to sort of figure it out. You understand what I'm saying? We speak the same language. That's so important. I've seen situations where people don't know what they're doing, and they get attorneys that don't know what they're doing, and they literally in insurance they churn stuff. So they're working on a building, they're working on this remodeling or whatever the case might be, and literally it becomes a cash cow for everybody. And if anybody in the church says, you know what, I think y'all are not handling our money right, and they go to court and they look at what you said, they didn't handle their books right, and they look at the books and they say, you know what, you weren't supposed to do any of that. And then they walk out in handcuffs because you, what's the word I'm looking for? You abused your fiduciary responsibility. And you can't say that I did not know. That's not an excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You got to know. You got to know. I used to work for the Southern Baptist, you know.
Okay.
I was a church finance officer. I used to make loans. I made loans to people all over the country. But I can tell you that working with them, they taught me to understand the nuances of doing that. There's a lot of things that you need to know. And if you don't know it, you can get yourself in a world of trouble. We make sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And I know that work. That's what I did for 7 years out of my life. And before that, it's financial services. I do this, but I know when it's wrong. I can look at it and tell it's wrong. Like you're an attorney, right? You look at it and say, like you said, yeah, you can sell a building if you want to, but you're going to be responsible for it because you can't do that. It doesn't belong to you. It's public property. They gave you a tax break. That means that they own it. The people own it. What you got behind you, we the people. That's what it says. We the people. They own it. So you can't do that. You can't sell it for your own benefit. You can't sell it for your own profit. If it's a not-for-profit organization, church, or whatever, you can't it's not a corporation. It's not a private corporation. You can't sell it for a profit. You can't do that. So, and that's interesting because I didn't think that, I never know the direction that our conversations will go on.
Yes.
But this is a good direction because we're talking about self-care, right? We're talking about living testimony. And I'm contending, and you said it earlier, that it's holistic. It's not just the physical, it's not just you, yourself, and I, but it's everything that you do, everything that's around you. If you're not taking care of those things and you're not being responsible for those things, then the irresponsibility is your fault. So your statement about having to get better at self-care and taking vacations and taking time out, yeah, that's true. I mean, people, getting a good night's sleep is pretty important too, 8 hours of sleep is important. I don't always get 8 hours of sleep, but when I can, I get them. I get them.
Because 8 hours, that's for the increased longevity. All the studies of that increase. And I wish I could train myself, because I've trained myself not to get 8 hours.
Right,
I wish I could train myself to get 8 hours, because I want longevity. But I'm simply talking about, you're right, the 8 hours. So those who can, get your 8 hours. If you can, get your 8 hours of sleep because it's healthy for you. You ready to go take on the world. You ready to do that. I always wonder why people go to bed so early. They want to be healthy and live a long time.
Exactly. Well, you see people who live to be 100 years old, they go to bed 8 o'clock at night.
Yes.
I'm 8 o'clock, they gone. Now, Dolores said, it reminds of God who rested on the seventh day. Jesus would take time away and pray and rest. This is important for everybody. Jesus in the flesh was important for him. He had to rest. He had to, if you don't do that, if you don't take time out. It was a song that we used to sing at church. Musician Johnny Hendricks used to sing this song. I never heard anybody sing it since Johnny passed away, but I love the song. I don't sing, so I can't sing it. I wish I could, because I would. But it says you ought to take some time out and just praise the Lord. You ought to take some time out and praise the Lord. Praise him for the promise. Praise him for the problems he's brought you through. Praise him for the blessings he's given to you. You ought to take some time out and just praise the Lord. And that's so important, because that time out is literally just putting yourself on pause. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm just sort of woosah, and just take a moment and just reflect on the goodness of God. The Bible talks about meditation, yet we don't do it. We don't practice it. It's not something we would rather jump and shout than sit and meditate. Now, that's one thing I do, by the way. I do spend time meditating. I do spend time I have some techniques that I've been using for years. I can be sitting in a chair and I can meditate and nobody even knows I'm doing it. Just relax the body. Just relax the body. Breathing. I had a friend of mine on earlier this year, and we talked about breathing, how important it is. He's a martial artist. He was talking about the breathing, how you get it from here and what it does to the body, what it does to the spirit. And just, as you breathe and breathe out, it does something. It helps you to relax. We don't do that. We just, but we don't breathe. Important. Darrell answers the question. He says, God uses earthly parables to explain spiritual truths, right? The spiritual truths are eternal. Been here before we got here and will exist forever. They are part of nature of our eternal God. We are under construction by God, and he uses people by his spirit to help to build people. He sets patterns for us to follow, and loving, hold on for a second, let me get it back. And loving ourselves is a fundamental pattern. It is us doing to us what he does to us, which is loving us. You know, we should love us like he loves us. I like that.
Yes.
I like that. So let's see if there's, see, Lorraine, some people find pleasure in helping and keeping busy. And that's true. I find pleasure in helping and keeping busy.
Same here.
But you still have to take some time just to relax and internalize who you are, because we can lose ourselves in the whirlwinds of life, even though we're doing good things. But sometimes we have to remember that we can't do everything. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And not taking on more responsibility than you can handle. That's important, because a lot of times we take big bites. You know, I do a lot of leadership stuff, and you know, what I'm real careful, what I'm real clear about is that, number one, I don't have to do everything. The people who have, you have to give them assignments and give them the opportunity to do it. And then this is another biggie about self-care. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be done. Because sometimes, you know, we want to make sure it's perfect. And we stay up night, not getting any sleep, worrying about the perfectionism, making sure that it's just right. And it doesn't have to be just right. It just has to be.
You're stepping on my toes, brother. Keep on talking, sir.
But it's true, you know,
yes.
and I'm like that. I want it to be right. You know, I want it to, but sometimes it can't be at this level of expectation. Sometimes it's going to fall short. But then, and some, if you give it to someone else to do, it may not rise up to your level of expectation, which is really, really challenging for a lot of us, especially as a character personalities, you know, doesn't rise to our level of expectation. And so, you know, we take it over and we get it done. But sometimes, in order to help people to grow to their level, you have to let them do it at their pace and at their level. And you can't step in and do it for them. That's hard.
Oh, yes.
A-type personalities, that's hard. You A-type personality. So I get it. But in order to help people, and that's what Lorraine taught, some people find pleasure in helping and keeping busy. Sometimes the best thing that you can do for someone is let them fail at what you assign to them for them to do, and then help them pick up the pieces and start all over again. Then they learn, right? You step in and take advantage of it or take over it. It may be right, but they didn't learn the lesson. So the next time you give them something, they may get the same, you may get the same result. And if you get the same result, then after a while you figure that they're not adequate for the job. They can't do it. Well, they can't do it because you didn't let them. You never let them learn. So that's important, you know, in terms of self-care, understanding that, you know, our expectations are not always other people's capabilities. We may expect more of them than they can actually give. Okay, that was a long way. That was a long conversation. So you can jump in anytime you like.
No, I'm listening. That was good for me. It was good for me. I was listening. It was good for me. Yes, yes, it was good for me. I'm glad Lorraine brought that point up, because that was good for me. Yes.
Yeah, you know, for me, you know, I do a lot. You know, I do this. I write. you know, I run my business. I do. I'm president of Associate Ministers Auxiliary. I'm president of the Homeowners Association. I'm the district governor for Rotary. What else do I do? You know, I'm on the board of directors of HCCI. I am the clergy liaison for the police department. I am the precinct council president. I do ceasefire, and I'm married for 36 years. Next month, or this month, not
Congratulations.
this month.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 36 years. And so, you know, that requires some time. It requires everything requires time and coordination and thinking. And so, I mean, like today, I actually I got a bicycle. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. I got a bike and I wanted to go out and ride my bike today, but I had obligations. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But I have a bike and I'm going to ride it before it gets too cold. But I you know, those kinds of things, right? Because sometimes you have to make sacrifices. So what did I do? I couldn't go out and ride. So I made sure this morning that I did my exercise, I did my cardio. And so I got my exercise on. You know, because I need to do that. Because if I don't do that, the energy levels that I need won't be there. You know, I do my exercise is my time for meditation, praying. I do my prayers while I'm exercising. You know, it's important. So then I do my study in the morning. So my mornings are my study times. It's my exercise time. It's time that I get, you know, my adrenaline flowing. And if I don't do that, my day gets complicated.
Okay.
Because it's easy to get overwhelmed. So those 20 to 30 minutes that I spend exercising and studying every day are and 20, 30 minutes of exercise, and then however long it takes to, you know, read my scriptures and do all the other things that I do, that helps me along the day. Because I don't know what I'm going to encounter when I get up in the morning. Sometimes before I put my feet on the ground, I have issue coming up. Before I get out the bed, issue coming up. So I have to figure that out. Well, what do I have to do to make sure that I'm in, you know, as good a condition as I possibly can? My doctor tells me to do something, I do it. I do it. You know why? Because if it don't work, I'm gonna blame her. Say, you told me to do it, I did it, you know? I mean, that's your area of expertise. I'm taking you, I'm relying on you. I'm relying on you to tell me what I need to do in order to keep myself in good shape, right? Now, if I take it upon myself to do something different, then I'm not using her expertise, right? She's the one who went to medical school. She knows this stuff. She's studying it. She's keeping up to date on. I don't do that. I don't do that. So I've learned that I've got to use people for what they bring to the table, and I can't do everything, and I get that. I've learned over the years I don't have to do everything. I don't have to be everything to everybody. So listen, we're almost out of time, almost. So I want to give you an opportunity to share in any way you want, and then I'm going to use the last 5 minutes or so just to close out. The Lord placed something on my heart that I want to share with everybody. But I want to thank you so much for being with me tonight. I really enjoyed this, and thank you for the talking about, you know, particularly like stop and frisk, those things that we don't necessarily talk about all the time. You really brought that to the surface, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. And everything I say, I'm a child of God. All my that vow, everything I was trying to do in life, I asked God to give it to me, and He has kept His promise. Let me say this two things you were saying about the medical, and I would tell everybody what you're saying about the doctor and stuff. I told my grandmother, a great woman, God bless her heart, that I have in great respect for. grandmother had all her homemade potions because she grew up at a time she didn't have access to medical care and insurance. Now we have that, and you just saying listen to the doctor. We should, because we still seeing some of our brothers and sisters that is dying before time because they're not taking care of themselves, not listening to their doctors. Even if you don't have money to afford it, Obamacare, you can get free health care, but you gotta listen to the doctor. We have too many people that are dying, and I unfortunately have to refer people write wills and sell these estates because of the fact that they didn't do what the doctor told them to do. Like you said so eloquently, that the one went to medical school. I had a bout when the COVID hit. I was found my back in the hospital. My beloved cousin from South Carolina, he wrote me a list of things what not to do. I can barely breathe. The doctor saying take this medicine, and he telling me what not to do and what to do. And I look, my cousin, I love him like a brother. God, what medical school you went to? Okay, are you crazy? He's on the phone texting me. I still got the text. So, but we have to come to that point, taking care of ourselves on the medical side, as you were just saying. I just want to repeat that. We got to do what doctor tells us to do, and we can't afford it. Get the free medical care. Look, our people pick cotton for free and made this nation the greatest nation in the world. Every Black person is entitled to some kind of health benefit. If you can't afford it, you entitled to free health care based on what your ancestors did for America. Hello, somebody. On my close, I know you want to have the final, you got to make some comments. Just that this is Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Month. Please, ma'am, please, sir, everybody take the time to talk to your young child, because this is learned behavior. As a criminologist, this is what my contribution to society. We're trying to do more workshops and help people. This thing can be avoided. This stuff is out of hand, this domestic violence. Please take time to discuss that around the dinner table. Tell young boys she doesn't belong to you. No matter how young they are, start the conversation. I'm gonna stop right there. God bless you, sir.
Well,
Thanks
you know
for
what?
having
I
me.
appreciate that. In fact, I wanna have you come and speak to. I'm also a chaplain. And I started a new chapter. We have like 67 people in the chapter, and we're starting a new class in 2 weeks. So I need you to put that on your calendar, because I really would like you to come and do like literally lead one of the classes for the new people, but certainly to talk to the whole cohort. So that, and domestic violence is I know that that's probably one of the leading things in our society. That's more police responses to that than pretty much anything else. Domestic violence. So
Yes.
yeah, please. So thank
I
you.
would love to come, please. That's my contribution to
I
society as a
got
criminologist, please.
I got
Yes.
I got
Okay.
you. And you
Good.
will be there. You will be there. So
Yes, sir.
listen, the book of Deuteronomy tells us that the way to be a living testimony is first self-care. That's the beginning of a decision to obey the voice and the commandments of God. Blessings accompany obedience in major ways. How far down do we have to go before we realize that God is not playing, and we have a choice to make? We can decide to serve God and follow in Christ's footsteps, or we can continue to walk the wide path that leads to death and destruction. Think about it. Even Jesus retreated to solitary places from time to time to refresh himself. That's self-care. We are no different. Self-care is a complex issue, as was very well articulated by Dr. Leroy. It goes beyond just the mind, body, and soul that we exist in. Self-care includes our community and our society. I contend that we are at our best when we practice self-care. It reveals who we are and ultimately who we were created to be. I want you to hear this well. When we choose to serve our fleshly desires and not the voice of God, there are consequences. When we fail to speak up for the righteous and allow unrighteousness to prevail, there are consequences. When we choose to let the television dictate the morals and the values we have for our society, there are consequences. When we allow anyone and everyone to do business in our communities, all that they make with them when they leave, there are consequences. When we allow ourselves to be priced out of our own neighborhoods because we don't own anything in them, there are consequences. When we choose to serve the God of this world and forsake the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the God of our ancestors, there are consequences.
My Lord. Yes, sir.
When we fail to care for ourselves, there are consequences. We become living testimonies and living sacrifices when we allow the Holy Spirit to work with us, because to become our best selves, to personify a living testimony, being who we were created to be, no matter what anybody thinks or says. So please, ma'am, please, sir, take care of yourself and be a living testimony. My guest tonight is the personification of someone who practices self-care, even though he's challenged, and is a living testimony to what it means to be holistic in his approach to self-care, with all the things that he's doing and has done. And you didn't hear the whole bio. His bio is ripe with things that he has done, accomplishments that he's made, the first in this and the first in that, and making a difference and walking your line. You heard how he walked the line between the blue and his community. Well, that's what I'm talking about. But he didn't choose the easy route of slipping into self-complacency. He chose not to go the easy route. Like the children of Israel, our best is revealed by living a lifestyle that glorifies God the Father, Jesus Christ the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The challenge Moses brought to his readers and the challenge he brings to us today is captured in verses 7 and 8 when he said, "For what great nation is there that has God so near to it as the Lord our God is to us? For whatever reason we may call upon him. And what great nation is there that has such status and righteous judgments as we are in all this law which I set before you this day?" Deacon Dr. Gadsden, love it. You make Bishopville proud.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for carving out some time and blessing us tonight. Your transparency and wisdom has been a blessing to us tonight. I call us the Matters of Faith family. I do understand why there was a chemistry of friendship that you didn't notice, but from the first day I met you in the safety office at Manhattan State Hospital. I remember it was in the Meyer building. I remember that.
Yes.
Because you see, you were the first there, and I knew, I said, hey, that's unusual. That brother is in charge. I love it. But that friendship that I saw even back then is still alive today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're being with us today. And I really appreciate that. And I hope you enjoyed your visit, your first
I loved it.
Matters of Faith family. And let me know when your schedule permits, so your first visit won't be your last.
Okay.
All right with you? Perfect.
Sound like a plan. I'm glad to come back. I had a great time. I learned it was good for me. Thank you so much. And shout out to Brother Watson out there. Good to see him still around. Thank you.
Shabaka also sends her regards too.
Minister, yes, that's going back.
She's been right there. She's been writing. She's been making comments and stuff. You got to go back and watch the recording so you can see what she put in the chat box and stuff. Not something I spoke of tonight, but they're there. Great. And now don't forget our sponsors and advertisers. The JLR Company, J. Lauren R. Consulting LLC. Those are my companies for all your church financial needs. Call 718-328-8096 or visit our website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. It's not about the castle, it's about the kingdom. And Matters of Faith, the book, I've been talking about it tonight. This is the book. This is the book right here. And it's it's nice and thin, so it won't rack your brain. But the book is $20 and the shipping is $3.92. I know I've been saying 22, but every time I go to the post office, they raise the rate. So it's actually $23.92. $3.92 covers the shipping and handling. Or you can get it as an ebook. Now the ebook, I put that information on the chat and Facebook. Just www.smashwords.com/books/view/993-177, and you can get it as an ebook. There is no shipping and no handling, and you get the book immediately. Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com to subscribe. We need to support each other, really. Better Mag Magazine. I had the publisher and the creator of the magazine on just a couple of weeks ago. She's a wonderful woman. A 2-year subscription is only $27.50, and they have picked up and they are now carrying the Matters of Faith column in the magazine. So please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure you do that. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Telephone, text, email, message, any way you do it. But tell a friend to join us regularly on Monday nights for Matters of Faith, the radio show. We're always live on Matters of Faith and J. Lauren Russell's Facebook groups. And when the show is over, as we will do tonight, we will drop the episode on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. That's why I ask you every week to please, ma'am, please, sir, subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Now, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Now, if no one told you this today, let me be the first to say that I love you and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So get used to it. God bless you and good night. I will see you all next week. Don't forget, next week, same time, same station. I'll see you then. Love you guys. Ciao.